This is the plush number 5, 4th Asoye Link East Legon Extension residence of Nayeli Ametepe, the jailed drug trafficker. It's one of the 2 residences that she owns. The other is in Ashanti region.
Then you start a process. It's
aware that we are starting a process. That is what we mean.
Confusion broke in the house when NACOB officials tried pasting a seizure notice on the building. NACOB, under Section 36 of the Narcotics Drugs Law 1990, the PNDC Law 236, placed the seizure notice signed by its acting executive secretary. However, NACOB has been challenged on the provision being used when Nayeli Ametepe is serving a jail sentence.
All this why didn't they realize that they had, and again, even holding down that law, don't you see that there is another power given to the attorney general to release those properties? So why don't you rather go to court and get a court order?
The law also gives us a clear procedure how we can make this happen. For example, in this case, where the person has pleaded guilty and the person has been convicted and sentenced, the appropriate thing that the Narcotics Control Board should have done is to apply through the Attorney General's department to the court for an order of forfeiture, so that the persons who are living currently in that house would have the opportunity to go to court to show cause why those properties should not be seized.
The house, a day after the assault case on the NACOB official, appeared empty with signs of extension works being done on it. Only the house help was available in the house. NACOB has indicated seizure notice has been placed on another house in the name of Nayeli located in the Ashanti region. However, NACOB maintains the building, house and her lighting shop does not belong to her and not a subject of seizure, but the items in the shop belongs to Nayeli Ametepe and would be confiscated. Our checks at the Jolo Night Angels shop showed it opened for business Wednesday morning. The whereabouts of the 3 children, sister and mother, is unknown. The huge edifice that belongs to the woman at the center of controversy in the trafficking of the 12 kilograms of cocaine that was trafficked into the United Kingdom. An Isleworth Crown Court in the United Kingdom jailed her yesterday for 8 years, 8 months. She began an 8-year, 8-month jail sentence on Tuesday, January 6. Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
Right, welcome back to New Day, and it's time for the chamber. This morning we are looking at confiscation and seizure with regards to Nayeli Ametepe. And as we all know, the Narcotics Board have been slammed for the way it's operated in going about the seizure of the property that belongs to the young lady. And after she was convicted and sentenced to 8 years and 8 months in jail. And although NACOB maintains that its operations are justified, some legal brains have slammed the board for the way they went about things. At what point does it become legal for the state to seize properties of an individual? And this morning I have with me a very fine legal brain, Eric Delano Alifo, who is a lawyer and also the executive director at Help Law Ghana. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
We haven't seen you this year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Many happy returns.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you for asking.
Great.
So, what exactly does the law say about seizure and confiscation of assets of convicted individuals?
Yeah, the law, first of all, the law was developed from a convention of the United Nations. There's a United Nations convention actually on narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances that enjoins the parties, the signatories to the convention, to take steps to trace properties and the instrumentalities and proceeds of drugs and seize them or forfeit them.
And Ghana is signatory to this convention?
Ghana, yes. And the constitution also enjoins Ghana, once you are a signatory, to enforce the treaties. In fact, when the treaties are ratified in Parliament, they become laws. And so, out of this forms the basis for the Part 3 of the PNDC Law 236, which is the Narcotics, Drugs Control, Enforcement and Sanctions Law. And it provides that whenever a person is convicted of drugs trafficking anywhere, whether in Ghana or outside of Ghana, then the properties or the proceeds or the instrumentalities coming out of that trade could be seized.
Is it just limited to drug offences?
Yes, and well, actually the law that we are dealing with is about drugs.
Drugs.
There are other ways that government can take properties of private citizens. Those ones may be to acquire them in the larger public interest, but that is not actually seizures. They are like acquiring them for the interest of the public, and then you pay compensation for the person. But in this particular case, you are seizing the property because the property has been acquired out of crime, so to speak.
Now, I also noticed you mentioned that whether or not the person was arrested or convicted within or outside the country.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter that she was arrested and tried in a different jurisdiction. The law still applies.
Yes,
assets can still be confiscated.
Yeah, it's a global fight against the drug trade. The drug trafficking all over the world, and that is why there's a United Nations Convention that has also enjoined the parties, the member countries, to seize these properties. And so it doesn't matter where. In fact, once the person is convicted anywhere, whether the person pleads guilty or not, once the person is convicted, it means that the person is actually liable. And so the state, the particular country, but if they can trace the properties of the person from all over the world,
so does this mean that every single property acquired by that person will be seized?
It's not really so. It is, well, it has to be shown that the property was acquired out of the drug proceeds.
Exactly. How is that established though? How do you know that this particular property was acquired through the proceeds of crime?
Yeah, actually, what the law says is that it's going to be very difficult for the authorities to establish that. So there's a presumption that all the properties of the person have been acquired.
So can this presumption be rebutted?
Yes, it can be rebutted. Actually, the law provides in section 18 actually that the liable person has to go to court. In fact, notice will be given from court to the person.
So there's a whole confiscation trial or process.
Exactly. It is the court that is going to determine whether the property should be forfeited. And so the person has the
right to come and defend some of these properties.
And show that, these properties were not acquired from drug trade or drug proceeds. So really the person has a way of so if you have acquired your property, for instance, several years before, and you're working and you're in a very good business and you have acquired those property, and you can show that this property was not acquired through drug proceeds, you have access to
so with regards to this present case, it's been reported that a family member of Nayeli was reported to have told the NACOP officials that they had no rights to seize or even to post notices on the property, as the case was even still pending, still ongoing. What do you have to say about that? Do they have any rights to do that?
I think that it is a bit murky. It's not very clear whether they are following the right procedure, whether NACOP officials are doing the right thing.
All the facts are not available.
Yes, I do think that they probably are posting the notice to show that this property is going to be going through some procedure in court.
So nobody should make any attempt to sell it or do anything with it.
That is my suspicion.
So even before the verdict or even before the person is convicted, they are allowed to go and post such notices?
Well, the law doesn't say so, but I don't really see anything wrong with that. If they want to indicate that this property is going under some kind of proceedings, legal or judicial proceedings, I don't think that there's no specific provision in the law about that, but I really don't see much wrong with it. And I don't also see anything wrong with the person who is protesting that don't post it over there. I think that eventually the court
will decide. So there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Would you say that this is an ultimate punishment for drug dealers, or even a deterrent of sorts? Because I mean, people will get smarter with time, and we've heard stories where such people have not registered most of their properties in their name. So really, is this a deterrent or a punishment at all?
Yeah, it is. I think it is a punishment because
if I've acquired 1 million properties through an illegal trade or the proceeds of crime, and they're not in my name, and you're unable to confiscate it, then really, where's the punishment or the deterrent to others?
Well, people are always able to escape the law, so we don't generalize with that. The generalization is that we should be able to trace the properties and seize the properties. So if anybody is able to escape, those should be the exceptions, actually. So really, the fact that somebody has been able to, we do know that people acquire these properties and they have stopped.
But if it's not, I just want to, if it's not in the person's name, can it be seized?
Well, if it can be established that the person owns it, putting it in somebody's name
doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, but I believe that there are circumstances where even though the
so it can be
property
proven.
somebody's name, yeah, it can be shown that it belongs to somebody else. And so if it can be shown that it belongs to somebody else and it's just put in somebody else's name, I believe that the law
So it's all just a matter of evidence and what you can prove in court.
Exactly.
So really it is a deterrent.
Yeah, I think so. It is the ultimate punishment. So if they can seize everything that you have acquired through drug proceeds, I think that then there's no incentive for embarking on such trade.
Right. So eventually what happens to the confiscated or seized assets? What does the state do with it?
Well, it becomes a state property.
To be sold off, to be kept.
I don't think to be sold. The state may, well, if there's any use for it, the state may use it. I don't know.
So let's say the state can convert it into a guest house and put visiting heads of states in the house or something.
Yes, I think so. The state can use it.
In your experience, do you know what has happened with some of these properties in Ghana where the state has seized?
Well, I know that some soldiers were put in certain properties before, and some properties became government bungalows and properties that they put government officials and public officials in. So I think that the state can't just seize the properties and keep them vacant forever. Yeah, until maybe further proceedings come to take the property.
But it's never sold off or auctioned or anything?
No, I don't. That may also come up. I think it will depend on the circumstances. If at a certain point of time, if they are never going to come back for it, and government thinks that disposing of properties in a particular manner and particular properties, and that is also inclusive, I think that it could easily go as well.
Can the convict come back to acquire that property back? Has it ever happened? Is it possible?
Well, I think that, well, if there's basis for it, yes, of course. I doubt very much if the convict can come back and show that property, it was wrong that the property was even seized in the first place because it wasn't acquired through drug proceeds. I believe that the convict should be able to get the property. But
not to come back and say, okay, now I'm back to legitimate business and I have genuine money and I want to buy back my own property. No, it doesn't happen now.
No, you can't do that.
All right.
You can't do that. Other than that, you haven't lost anything in the first place. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. That's all the time we have for this segment. Eric Delano Alifo is a lawyer and executive director at Help Law Ghana. We've been talking about confiscation and assets, seizure of assets with relation to the Nayeli Ametefe case.